Hey there, I am back on day, I think 3 of OCD Awareness Week. And during this video, I want to talk about hypochondria, also known as health OCD or death OCD. Out of all the themes I'll talk about this week, this one is the easiest for me to explain. Basically, hypochondria is your fear of illness, or your fear of death, or your fear of an illness that leads to death. Let me read to you from the OCDLA.com website. It says, basically it's best described as the obsessive, irrational fear of having a serious medical condition. So like I said, basically you're just afraid you're going to die. And let me give you a few examples of what that looks like in the mind of somebody with hypochondria. Hey Dad, is it okay if I go get my nails done with Brandy and then go hang out at the mall with her and some friends? Please?
Sure, that'd be fine. You just watch out for that there fungus there we're talking about at them nail salons. Did you hear about that fungus? It was on the news this morning.
No, Daddy, I didn't hear about no fungus on the news. What fungus?
I think it was on the news. Maybe it was that Tara Banks show. Anyhow, it was from those tools they use. I guess they aren't always sanitary.
That does sound really scary and dangerous. How do you know if the tools are clean, or what's the fungus called so I can Google it? Do you remember the name of the fungus, Daddy?
Well, like on the news, they talked about you can't really see it because it's a fungus, right? So you got to be looking in a microscope to see it. You just don't know.
Are you kidding me right now? So you can't tell, but there's this fungus that you can just get, and you never know.
You're not worrying, are you? I mean, you'll know if you get it. Your skin will start falling off and you'll lose like fingers and toes. I mean, you'll know.
Wonderful. Hang on one second. Hi, Brandy. Change of plans. I'm not going to get my nails done today, but we can still go hang out at the mall.
Yeah, just go to the mall. Just be careful at the mall, because, I heard last week on the news there was that epidemic of that.
Hi, Brandy. I'm not coming to the mall today. I just don't feel good anymore. No, I'm alright. That was a kind of silly way to illustrate just a very mild example of what it looks like in the life of somebody who's a hypochondriac. Any slight little pain in your side could easily be your appendix bursting. For guys and girls, an unusual lump in your breast or in your arms can mean cancer. And a headache. Oh gosh, do not get a headache if you have hypochondria, because it's like for sure a brain tumor. My very first memory of having hypochondria was when I was staying with my grandmother, and I was in her room and she was getting changed. This wasn't an unusual thing for my grandma to do. We were in a hurry, we were getting ready to go eat, and I looked up at her as she was changing, and I noticed that she didn't have one of her breasts. After further inspection, I looked and I saw that her bra actually had padding on one side, so that when she put a shirt on, it looked like she had both. And I saw the scarring on her chest and in through her armpit, and I asked her, I said, Grandma, what happened to you? Well, honey, I had something called breast cancer, and they removed everything, and now Grandma's fine. She basically explained to me that I should look for lumps in my breasts and under my armpits, and that's exactly what I did from the age of 7. I did it probably at least 20 times a day. I would check for lumps all over my body. In school, when I went to the bathroom, or when I was in the locker room changing, anytime I could, I would check. Again, when I was 12, my very good friend, Steve, got spiral meningitis. I immediately learned the symptoms, and naturally I came down with pretty much every single one of them. I could go on, but you can just use your imagination. All the things that a young girl can hear about as far as health is concerned, especially heart attacks, pneumonia, blindness, going deaf. I think you get the idea. Ultimately, though, it's a constant fear of dying. Now, all my friends might be wondering, well, why don't you just stop thinking about it then? Seems easy enough. Come here, let me tell you a little secret. Someone with OCD cannot control their thoughts. So please, stop telling us to just stop thinking about it. When somebody's in the throes of anxiety or depression, they can't stop. That's kind of the point. We don't choose this. Maybe you're thinking if we were stronger, if we had more willpower, maybe we could just force ourselves to overcome this. Let's carry that logic all the way through, shall we? Why don't you go tell somebody with schizophrenia just to stop? Or tell somebody with diabetes to stop. It's something in our brains that we can't control. And to those of you who don't ascribe to that system of beliefs, that's okay. You don't have to until you get a mental illness or somebody that you love does, and then you might change your way. Luckily for me, there are things that I can do to change my situation, like exposure and response prevention therapy. So basically, I can do something. I can train and reprogram my brain, but it doesn't change my thoughts, right? It doesn't stop me from having OCD. I've just learned how to respond to the thoughts now, and I've changed what I believe about the thoughts so that I can act like a person without OCD. And that's been solely through exposure and response prevention therapy, also referred to as ERP, and mindfulness. You may be wondering why this is part of obsessive compulsive disorder. If it's just worrying about getting sick, what does that have to do with obsessions and compulsions? So here's how it works basically. Somebody with health anxiety will get a headache or an ache or a pain, and they'll start obsessing about that pain. They'll start imagining all sorts of irrational things, like a brain tumor, their appendicitis, cancer. And you might be thinking right now, well, I worry about getting sick, and sometimes I get a headache, and I think, man, what if I got a brain tumor? Do you spend hours and hours on Google? Are you making frequent visits on a weekly basis to your doctor's office? Are you constantly asking your friends, your parents, or your spouse if they notice anything different or unusual about a certain area of your body? It's obsessive, it's compulsive, and it's a disorder because it interferes with your day-to-day living. Gosh, I could just sit here and talk all day long about how I felt so alone and so scared for so long. And I could share lots more. There's tons of stuff online that you can find about symptoms and all that fun stuff. Ultimately, though, what I want to leave you with in all of this is that OCD, especially hypochondria, is very treatable. Gosh, it sucks. It sucks so bad. And if you're going through it right now, I'm sorry. I know how it feels, and I'm sorry. But I also know how recovery feels, and I'm not sorry for all the hard work I did to get here. So if you're one of my many friends who has hypochondria, with the right treatment, I do believe that you can improve your quality of life. If you don't have OCD, hopefully now you know a little bit more about it if you've lasted through this video. My only encouragement to you is just not to judge.